Well, good afternoon and welcome to Live Impact News right here on 13 News Now Plus. It's 1:01 p.m., April 8th, Wednesday. Thank you for joining our afternoon stream. I'm Connor Reel, as always. The People's producer, Nia Campbell, is here with us in studio as well. Hey, Nia, what's going on? How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am all right. We are kind of, so much news is coming in following the announcement of a ceasefire yesterday. A proposal, a 2-week ceasefire, a proposal between Iran and the U.S. for lasting peace. That piece of news has only led to more and more updates. And so we're trying to get everything summarized, as much up-to-date information as we can for you. And it's definitely required. The updates are just coming in so quickly. Now, that has happened throughout the Iran war. That we have gotten constant updates throughout the day, but it feels as though in this particular situation, there's been an acceleration. Now, as you can see there, the White House press briefing is set to begin at some point, likely in the 1 o'clock hour. It was announced for 1 o'clock. Our past experience tells us that it could be a little later than that. So we're waiting on that while trying to make sure that we summarize all of this news for you after that deadline that Trump set last night was pushed back for 2 weeks at least due to a ceasefire agreement. That ceasefire has not necessarily held in the Gulf. There haven't been zero strikes in the Gulf. That's something we're going to talk about. And, I'm up here going on and on only as a really poor, long-winded answer to your question, Nia, that busy. Busy is how I feel today.
I didn't even know you were still answering that.
So still answering, just kind of monologuing, answering, updating, reporting. We do it all here on Live Impact News. But hey, thanks for asking.
Of course.
We appreciate it.
I do feel you, though.
We appreciate you. It has. It's been a morning with a lot of news. There are, this is not a proposal that has had sort of a uniform view of the points of emphasis, right? In terms of uranium that is buried in Iran, that the United States wants to make sure gets removed from Iran. Uranium, of course, could be used to make weapons that could be very dangerous to the globe. And then there's also the Strait of Hormuz, a talking point that we have repeatedly gone back to here. The Strait of Hormuz being opened, one of the keys for President Donald Trump in order to sort of push back that deadline or for Iran to satisfactorily meet his demands at that deadline. The Strait of Hormuz reopened, but under what conditions? And then just as I'm getting ready to try and communicate to you here on our 1 o'clock stream that the Strait of Hormuz is reopened, but the conditions under which our details are still coming out and are still being summarized, we get this update from the Associated Press. 13 minutes ago, this just in, Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz in response to Israeli attacks on Lebanon, according to Iranian state media. So we are less than 24 hours removed from the deadline, less than 24 hours removed from an uncomfortable ceasefire, less than 24 hours removed from efforts towards longstanding peace. And we have the Strait of Hormuz closing once again, at least according to Iranian state media, in response to Israeli attacks on Lebanon. Now, Israel did indeed attack Lebanon. They announced, Israel officials announced that they would continue to utilize every operational opportunity to strike Hezbollah. Hezbollah, of course, has been hiding in Lebanon during the duration of this conflict. And so when Israel says strike Hezbollah, so often that has meant strike Lebanon, and that is, in fact, what happened this morning. More than 100 targets in 10 minutes across Lebanon, one of the most forceful attacks that we've seen since this war began. Now, there was some reporting that Israel's fighting with Hezbollah would not be a part of the ceasefire. That reporting seems to be in conflict with this report that Iran has closed the Strait of Hormuz in response to Israeli attacks on Lebanon. So again, we'll give you a little bit of an inside look into how quickly information is coming in, how quickly information is changing, and the attempt to get a handle on where this conflict stands, where the ceasefire to this conflict stands, and the facts of that ceasefire. So All of it will be coming across our desk throughout the stream, and we'll be bringing it to you in the most concise and informative way that we can. I don't mean to convey chaos. I just want to convey sort of the sense of a rapidly changing environment, and one that everyone is so deeply invested in, as evidenced by actual investments. Stock markets surging after that 2-week ceasefire was announced. The S&P 500 up 2.7% this morning. We saw that tick up even a little bit more at points throughout the day. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up 1,350 points. There have been gains in European and Asian markets, and oil prices plunging back below $90 a barrel at times following that ceasefire announcement. So the stock market providing a reflection of just how sensitive the world is to this war and to the outcome of this conflict and this ceasefire. So all of it will be a part of our stream today, a part of the updates we get today. And rest assured, I think it's a reasonable assumption that a large portion of this White House media briefing will include details or at least questions and answers around that conflict. We know that the United States and Iran both claimed victory on Wednesday after that 2-week ceasefire was agreed to. And again, that comes even as more drones and missiles hit different areas of the Gulf states. Now, the two sides, all sides, have prevented different versions of the terms, as we touched on. So that's something that we're still trying to make sure we have all of the correct information on. And there also has Pakistan said that fighting would pause in Lebanon. Israel has invaded to fight Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Wednesday that the deal doesn't cover fighting against Hezbollah. So, again, you see the differences in reports there. One thing that comes from Pakistan, another that comes from Israel, and then a whole nother that we see actually occurring this morning. All of it being summarized for you the best way that we can here on Live Impact News. Now, Nia Campbell, I see that you have pulled up what appears to be a live feed of an entirely different event. When you do that, I know that in some ways you're communicating with me. You don't want to interrupt when I'm doing my thing over here. What do we have here?
Yeah, this is in California. The attorney representing a man that was shot by ICE is holding a press conference.
Okay, let's go live out to that. I appreciate your patience. I appreciate all of those who are watching's patience. Go out to California. The attorney of a man who was shot by ICE speaking now live. Let's listen in.
So I mentioned that to her, and literally later on she called me again and she asked me, there's agent that is gonna go outside to meet you. So someone from the police department or from the county. So yes, this person called me. He said, I'm coming out. His name is Jorge. So I met with him, and he literally asked me to go inside the hospital on the emergency area. And we went to our room. He said, I'm going to record you because I need to have this recorded, right? So this conversation. So I was expecting him to talk to me about Carlos. I literally asked him how he's doing. Is he in the hospital? He said, I cannot share any information. I'm not authorized. So after that, the only question that he asked me is about the person, right? How did I find out? The main intention for him is to find out if this is an agent or this is a police officer, right? Because if he's presenting himself that way, then they do have the right to arrest him. I told him at that moment, that's my interpretation, right? That's what I found out at that moment when we were connecting with him. To be honest, my mind was blind, right? So I didn't know what information I was getting. So after I confirmed that with him, he said, okay, you're good to go. So I was asking him, are you able to share with me the condition? He said, no, I'm not authorized. Is he in the hospital? No, I'm not authorized. So they didn't give any information. So I told my sister, there's no way for us to stay here because they are not willing to give any information. So I was driving back home. Like 5 minutes later, I received a call from the person from the hospital, the social worker, Jennifer. And she was the one telling me that finally she was authorized to talk to me, just to let me know that yes, he was at the hospital, and he was his condition is like stable. I asked her directly how many shots. She said I cannot share that information. Where in the body, right? Those shots happened. I cannot share that information. Can I talk to him over the phone, or can I have any contact? She said no, you cannot. I'm not authorized to give those permissions until the FBI authorized for myself, but they connect directly with you. So I told her, okay, when can I who can I connect with, right? So she told me I'm gonna be the main contact only to offer updates about his health, his condition. So she told me, oh, I will call you tomorrow because I'm about to leave. It was almost 5 p.m. So that's the schedule that she has. She said, I'm gonna look for someone, right, that in case you call, they can give you information. She didn't give me any names end of the day, so I just trust her, right, that she's calling me today. So I was waiting for her call at 8 a.m. Nothing happened, so we went to the hospital. I went to the emergency room, spoke with the front person on the desk, and they told me no person with a name is in the emergency room. She asked me to go to the main lobby to the hospital, so I went there. I spoke also with the front desk person, and they told me the name is not on the system. So I told them directly, I do have the room number because Jennifer gave it to me yesterday. And I asked her, can you please call Jennifer directly? Can she come to meet us, right? So because I need more information. So the answer that we got is Jennifer is gonna call you in a couple of hours, right? So until now she hasn't called.
And this question's for you.
Yes.
With ISIS statement, they said the officers were following their training and fired defensive shots to protect themselves and the public. Do you dispute that narrative?
No, I think the problem is the training. If you look at that video and watch that video side by side with the Renee Good video, it's the same training, and it's horrible training. CHP does dangerous stops day in, day out. They don't have this kind of issue. Here you have a not dangerous person, and when they tried to flee, first of all, the car was way too far behind. When you do
Okay, as you can tell, we've lost audio there in the question and answer. We're not exactly sure what this is. It doesn't fit the description of most press conferences we see, but it certainly could be. I mean, it is the description we got is attorney representing a man shot by ICE holds a presser. So perhaps it's just not your typical sort of microphones and standing podium location. They've chosen to do it in a more controlled environment in this room here. The background that we've been able to gather thus far on this is that U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers shot and injured a man during an attempted stop in California on Tuesday, according to federal authorities. The officers fired shots at Carlos Ivan Mendoza Hernandez during a targeted traffic stop on Interstate 5 in the city of Patterson. So that is the situation that we've got right now. The acting ICE director, Todd Lyons, alleged that the driver, quote, weaponized his vehicle in an attempt to run an officer over, end quote. That accusation is disputed by Mendoza Hernandez's attorney. So conflicting reports from different officials or from official to attorney on what happened in the incident. And all of that is what we're trying to learn today. Certainly doesn't help that the audio went out just as we were beginning to hear from lawyers and others on this case. Nonetheless, we continue to pursue more details on this particular situation, and it looks like we have the audio back. Well, that will certainly help in that regard. Let's go back out to California and listen in, try to learn more about this case. Okay, well, it was in and out. We tried to let it sit for a second there as things were in and out. So we are clearly not able to get consistent audio at this time. If we are, we'll bring that to you, and we will work to gather some more details about this while we sort of explore better methods to be able to listen in on that situation. Now, we have Benjamin Netanyahu, who has just gone live. The note we have is that this particular speech that he is giving, these remarks, will be in Hebrew and not in English. So we do have Benjamin Netanyahu speaking. We'll listen in briefly in case there is some sort of translation, but we're told this will be in Hebrew, not English. Let's take a brief listen only because of how intensely newsworthy his words could be in the midst of A, the war in Iran, but B, Israel's attacks on Lebanon today and how that has impacted potential peace and potential ceasefire. Let's take a brief listen here.
או בהסכמה או בחידוש הלחימה. כי אנחנו ערוכים לחזור ללחימה בכל רגע שידרש. האצבע על ההדק.
Okay, so as we sort of reported there, that is indeed in Hebrew, not English. We are not able to, unless you speak Hebrew, we're not able to understand what Prime Minister Netanyahu is saying now. We certainly expect that his words will be reported very quickly here, especially with the timing of this situation. Now, this says, yeah, so we'll wait for updates on what he may have included in this press conference and how it could impact peace in the Middle East, the war in Iran, Lebanon, which is under widespread destruction following the strikes from earlier today. All of it could hinge on words that Netanyahu has to say here. So it's something that if we get reporting on what he said, we'll go to it. Now we've got this press conference back up in California. We should take another listen and see if we've got audio back. I know the stream is a little bit scattered here at the time being, but if you bear with us, we're going to find our path and we're going to get you all the information that you need. So we appreciate your patience. Let's take another listen in. We won't sit with it long if the audio is not there.
Because the windshield was cracked. And he was asking me, when did that happen? So I shared the information. I told him the car is under my name, so I will take care of this, right? And they said it took us some time because on system, it shows a lot of people with the same names and last names. So it literally, I wasn't present the whole time, but it took probably around 30 minutes based on my understanding. And after he confirmed with me that there was nothing wrong, they allowed us to leave, right? But Carlos was sharing with me, even in presence of the police, right? He was talking about one of the officers was very rude. It's the same person that was talking directly to me. And one question that the police officer, right, was giving information to myself about the situation. He just asked me, right, are you guys still living in Patterson? I said, yes, right. So I'm thinking for the information that has been shown on the news, right, if they do have something against Carlos, at that moment they do have the right to detain him, right? Why they didn't do that, especially is police, right? I think those things shows up on system, even back then with the traffic ticket that he got. I think it's a way for them to stop him right away, right? So I do believe probably the incident is coming from there, right? I don't know if he was targeted after that one. And yesterday when we were looking into more information, one of my sisters was looking into the home cameras, the ones that shows the exterior, the main entrance. And we find out that when Carlos was leaving, because there were rumors that the shooting started around 3 a.m., right? But Carlos left the home around 6:15 a.m. Yesterday, he even woke up late, and he's like, feeling, probably I don't want to go to work. I said, no, you need to go work, right? So he get up, he made himself ready, and he left. And one of the pictures that my sister showed me, there's a black car parked outside, just outside my home. And that similar car, the one that is shown on the video. So I'm thinking they're already waiting for him outside. So my question to Patrick yesterday is like, why didn't get him outside? So he was sharing some of the protocol. I understand, but why it took 15 minutes from home all the way almost to the freeway for them to make the stop? It doesn't make sense.
Just to follow up on that same end, I know we've been told numerous times that police and local agencies are not meant to work with ICE in this capacity. If it does turn out that that's what it's related to, is there any follow-up that you can do? Is there any way to trace that information back to this source?
So, I mean, it gets into a lot of layers of speculation, which, like I said, I don't work for DHS, so I don't try to spread rumors. I think if it turns out that somebody did something improper, I would hope that given the attention this is getting, Turlock PD would do the right thing and on their own make sure that didn't happen. You know, I'm not somebody who likes to put out and say somebody was doing malicious things. It doesn't add up, and there's a lot that doesn't add up. And certainly there are legal steps that can be taken if that's the case. But right now, I don't want to get into that. Our priority is finding out how Carlos is doing, get him out, and figure out what the heck is happening. And so we're putting out the call there, and then just reaching out and trying to get as much support as we can, which is why we appreciate you here. I see a couple questions on there again. Everyone keeps asking, was he ever a member of the 18th Street Gang? From everything we can find, he was not. I was not there with him in Salvador. I don't know the details, but from every piece of information that we've found and from what he's related to his family, he was not. We have not spoken to him. And so somebody asked, why did he try to flee? There was a question online. I wasn't with him at that time. I can only imagine. If you see what has been happening in immigration detention and you find yourself about to be detained, and you see the conditions that people are going through and the reports of deaths and rapes and horrible conditions in there, it's natural to try to flee. Whether that's a good idea, whether I'm certainly not encouraging people to become fugitives and flee from law enforcement, but if you want to talk about a human reaction in that moment, if you think you're about to be sequestered away in a secret prison and you believe it, whether or not anyone wants to say that is happening or not, if you subjectively believe that that's what's going to happen to you, you're going to run. This is why we have a system of laws. This is what's made America great for 250 years, is we do believe in the rule of law. People know it's predictable what's going to happen. We don't have secret prisons. And now that we seem to, people are reacting in irrational ways. And that is a thing that happens. So and it endangers everybody on all sides. Any more here, because we've been focusing on online?
Yes.
Yes.
So this area is naturally a very large migrant community.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of fear right now for this. So what kind of legal advice and advice generally would you give to them?
So my first advice to everybody always is don't panic. Panic is generally speaking the worst enemy. To this day, even in this incident, this was clearly a targeted pickup. It follows the protocol for an ICE targeted pickup. This happens, it's not sharing anything secret. ICE follows somebody along, they wait until they're on an isolated stretch of road without anybody around them, they initiate a traffic stop, the person stops because they're a law-abiding person who sees lights behind them, they pull over. And then ICE comes out, they effectively pretend to be local law enforcement in order to initiate the stop, and then they identify themselves at ICE, and they take the person into custody, abandoning the car on the side of the road. That's the norm for ICE stops. So if you are in a situation where you think that's happening and you're questioning whether that is actually ICE or a police officer behind you, call 911. Say, you know what, somebody's trying to stop me. I don't know if it's somebody who is from law enforcement or not. I don't see a black and white behind me. And 911 will be able to confirm if that's a local law enforcement person who's trying to stop you. At least that way we get the information out there. If you are in a situation where you're afraid that you may have immigration problems, the right time to get legal advice is now, not wait before. And that's not so much related to this case, but in other cases we've seen people can do a lot to improve their situation. Yes, it can take a month or two to get in to see a lawyer. For some reason, we're all busy right now. But get your ducks in a row, no pun intended, as early as you possibly can. And that's the best way that you're talking about. So next question.
Cindy, what was your reaction when you heard ICE describe him as a gang member wanted in connection to murder?
I'm surprised. I have seen the cases from previous situations that happened in the whole country. I know they will find a way to make him be the person responsible, right? I understand probably they want to look into what are the cases, right, that happened previous year. Whatever he shared earlier is what I know, right? Based on that documentation, that's what I got directly from Carlos before. So going back to your question, I feel like there's only ways for them to excuse what happened, right? Because I understand there's protocols, but I think one thing that we need to understand, we are dealing with people, right? I think that's the biggest part. I understand they want to look for people. I understand they want to make this country better, as they mentioned. But in reality, they are impacting families. In this case, it's my family. I saw those cases before on the news. I always wish nothing happened to my family, right? Unfortunately, right now, it's me. And that's the reason why I'm here also, because I'm also representing our community. I don't want these situations to continue happening.
Okay, back here in the Live Impact News studio, that press conference ongoing. We did get to hear some details, but we want to go straight out to Washington, D.C. Caroline Levitt has taken the podium at the White House. Let's go out, listen to the White House press secretary now.
Fury. President Trump stated this would be a 4 to 6 week military operation to dismantle the military threat posed by the radical Islamic Iranian regime. Thanks to the unbelievable capabilities of America's war fighters, the United States has achieved and exceeded those core military objectives in just 38 days. The U.S. military destroyed Iran's defense industrial base, crushing the regime's ability to manufacture weapons that they and their proxies use to maim and kill Americans and terrorize the world. Iran's ability to build and stockpile ballistic missiles and long-range drones has also been set back by years compared to where it was 6 weeks ago prior to the launch of Operation Epic Fury. We destroyed the vast majority of Iran's ballistic missiles, launcher vehicles, and long-range attack drones through more than 450 strikes on ballistic missiles and approximately 800 strikes on Iran's drone launching units and storage facilities. In total, more than 13,000 targets across Iran were struck. Again, this is in the matter of just 38 days. Meanwhile, the Iranian Navy was completely annihilated. The United States destroyed more than 150 naval vessels in total, including 16 entire classes of Iranian warships. Despite once being the largest undersea force in the Middle East, Iran now has 0 submarine vessels. 97% of Iran's once massive inventory of more than 5,000 naval mines has also been targeted and destroyed. Iran's air forces are functionally and operationally irrelevant at this point, after the United States maintained total air dominance over their country for weeks on end. To underscore the significance of this, before Operation Epic Fury, the Iranian Air Force would fly between 30 to 100 flights per day. Today, that number is 0. Iran's ability to fund and support its terrorist proxies has been greatly reduced. At this point, Iran can no longer distribute weapons to its proxies in the region. And most importantly, Iran will not be able to acquire nuclear weapons. Prior to the start of this successful operation, Iran was aggressively expanding its short-range ballistic missile arsenal. Through these weapons and its navy, Iran was attempting to build a military buildup around their country that would pose an imminent and existential threat to the United States military assets in the Middle East.
Okay, Caroline Leavitt speaking about Iran and the damage done to Iran throughout this conflict. Now, we have come out of that White House press briefing rather quickly. That is something that we are recording right now, and we plan to go back to live. But for the time being, we actually have a very special guest joining us here on Live Impact News. That is coming up right after this break, and then we'll get back to those news headlines of the day. All right, back here on Live Impact News, 1:31 p.m. And this is a special treat for our program here. We actually welcome a guest to Live Impact. Tessa Davis, the ASYMCA Hampton Roads Youth Director, joins us now. Now, YMCA, perhaps familiar letters to all of you sitting at home watching. ASYMCA, that's the Armed Services YMCA. So Tessa has joined us at a great time to talk about some of the services they offer. Tessa, we haven't gotten a chance to meet yet. I'm Connor. Thanks so much for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely, and super happy to be here today, Connor. Thank you.
Awesome. And I see you've Kids Serve Too is on the background behind you. I'm wondering if you could elaborate on that phrasing. I think that's a really kind of interesting epithet.
Yeah, absolutely. So here at the Armed Services YMCA, we do everything to help strengthen our military families. And of course, that includes our kids. So our kids don't have a choice of whether or not they've signed up. So they are part of the military service with their whole family. And they serve too. They get to move every 2 years and have to start again. One of the things we hear is that military kids are so resilient. But that doesn't mean they're born that way. That means they need to be taught and have the skills to be able to do so. And that's one of the things we do here at the Armed Services YMCA.
How do the skills to be resilient? What are the things that you can teach someone, especially a young person, to be more resilient?
Yeah, so one of our programs is called Operation Hero. It's a free after-school care program that meets 2 times a week for 2 hours a day for about 10 weeks. And we go have a lesson of the day, and we go through all these activities that really strengthen self-identity and what it means to be a friend and how to have responsibility. So these are all things that just to be able to have that resiliency so they could have the skills and know how to help with their parent that's still at home, maybe if a dad or a mom are deployed. So it's been a really awesome program, and that runs, we're actually about to kick that off again here after spring break throughout the Hampton Roads community.
That's great. And that sounds awesome. Are there any other programs that you want to highlight that you guys are kind of specifically focused on right now?
Yes, we have a lot of our main core programs. So one of our goals, like I said, is to be strengthen our military families and make our families mission ready. One of our programs is called Operation Little Learner. That again kicks off here right after spring break. We're meeting at 17 locations throughout Hampton Roads, and this is a class, a free parent and me class for the parent to join their child in a school readiness class that meets 2 hours a day for 2 days a week for 13 weeks. So the kids and the parents go through a whole learning activity, letter, number, color, shape, developmental concept of the day, and of course playtime, and have those fine and gross motor skills. And so that's something that they can do along with their parent. But it's great because the kid also has some socialization, but the parent that's here also has amazing socialization and gets to really have their village. And that's what we're seeing that we really need right now. We don't need to have our village once our military member is deployed. We need to go ahead and have those bonds happening now. Of course, if they deployed and we don't have those bonds, we're here to help strengthen you and get you a part of those programs and plugged in. But it's really important us to be have the family supported so that our military members are mission ready.
When you talk about, when parents are deployed, is there anything that you guys offer specifically for children whose parents are, currently deployed? Are there any programs that are just for kids who are without a mom or a dad at home because they're serving our country overseas?
So we do a lot of programs. We aren't specifying them just to be if they're deployed. We are doing some extra things for our families that are deployed. So we've taken a survey and seeing who are deployed. We were able to give some extra Easter love this past week to be able to provide some of those things. But really our programs are here to serve those military members. So like we also offer a pre-K as well as a before and after school care service. And that's going to be there. So if that parent is deployed, the stay-at-home parent is able to have continuous care for their child, especially within our pre-K department. We've partnered with Virginia Department of Education with a mixed delivery funding and able to offer our military families high quality childcare at a really amazing rate. So some of our families are paying as little as $5 for the whole month to have full day, full year care in a quality environment. And all of our staff members are also military connected some way, shape, or form within our teaching staff. So either military kid themselves, a military spouse, or former military. So we're really understanding what they're going through. We've been there, we've done that. We see that as a challenge, but we're here to be the support system and the resources that they need.
And we talk about, deployments happen all the time, and I cannot imagine, what it's like for those families. And then we enter into, just 6 weeks ago, a time of war here in America, where it's possible that those who are deployed are headed off to areas of, intense conflict and violence. For you guys, working at the ASYMCA, the people who come to the ASYMCA and use those services and create that village and build that community, is there any noticeable change when we enter into a conflict like the one we're a part of right now? Is there a change in the services you offer, or the amount of attention you offer, or anything like that when we actually do enter into an armed conflict?
Yeah, so we see an increased waiting list for our programs. Most of our programs are low cost or no cost. We offer a food pantry. We're open Monday and Wednesday by appointment only, and every other Friday walk-in. We've seen an increase in our food pantry really take up. I think that there's a lot of families. One of the things that maybe civilian families don't understand is that about 20% of our military service families are at or below the poverty line. So there's some food insecurity there. We're able to offer that just on the basic needs, food and other resources. So fresh and frozen items, as well as shelf stable items, to be able to be here for our families. There's no questions asked. We're just here. We let them shop. They do what they need to do. But we're also a resource while they're here. So there's a lot of big feelings and emotions that are happening both within our students, our children that we service, as well as our adults that we service as well. So a lot of times if they're shopping, we're just an ear to hear. Or if our children are participating in our programs, if the parent is walking in and just needs a moment to be able to talk to somebody else, we're here. Because like I said, some of our spouses are deployed, some of our children are deployed, or we've had a deployment in our family. So we understand just to be able to be here. They know that we're here to support them. We're the best kept secret in Hampton Roads, but we need to be known as the best known solution.
And, the best kept secret in Hampton Roads, if there are people watching this and learning about your organization for the first time and they're wondering how they can help, is there any way that people can do that?
Yes, please. So we have a lot of our services, and like I said, we offer them at either low cost or no cost. So right now we're about to hit Give 757 next in a couple Tuesdays from here. So we are in a fundraising campaign, and we would love to be able to, when we have families that are deployed and they need something, because it's kind of the law that if our service member deploys, that's when our tire pops or our washer goes out or something crazy happens. So we'd like to be able to provide some emergency financial assistance as well to our families, and just be able to continue to support our programs and keep them low cost or no cost.
Yeah, that's absolutely. And hopefully anyone who feels the desire to can go and help out. And especially in this time, but any time, there's constant, especially here in Hampton Roads, a constant need with so much military activity here, so many going off to serve. I'm wondering, you talk a lot about the connection, especially staff to children and parents to other parents and children to children, all those little connections that are being made amongst people who find themselves in similar situations. I'm wondering if you could summarize what this community is like that you guys have built at YMSCA, ASYMCA. That's like the fourth time that I've gotten the letters.
Yeah. That's all right. That's why I'm saying we've been around for 165 years, so we've been around a while, but we are little known. So thank you for having us on today so that we can get our word out. Yeah, being a part of this community is amazing. Actually, my husband and I were stationed here in Virginia Beach in 2007. Our boys were little toddlers, and this was our first duty station. We didn't have a community. We didn't have resources like the Armed Services YMCA provides. I wasn't able to go to work, so kids stayed home with me. So that was harder on us, our family financially. But if we had programs like we offer at the ASYMCA, our first duty station would have been completely different. I would have loved to be able to be a part of something like Operation Little Learner, where I can bring my child with me and really explore how to be their first and best teacher, as well as making those connections. Because not only do we have the connections, like I said, with the student with student, but child with parent, and then parents with other parents. We all need a community, and it's really hard to find that. You would think with being in the military, you're just automatically going to have a community right off the bat, but it can be super challenging. So to be able to have a safe place that people are looking out for you, they care for you, they care what happens with your children, and they just want to be a part of your life and walk alongside you while all this is going on. It's really important to us here at the Armed Services YMCA, and one of the things we say, if we don't offer it yet, let us know. We're going to figure out a way we can help you and continue to serve your family as you serve our country.
That's fantastic. I can't tell you how much we appreciate you spending time with us. And this is far too important of an organization for me to be getting the letters wrong here. ASYMCA, Armed Services YMCA. You said 165 years?
Yes, we're celebrating it this year. So we're going to have different activities throughout the year. So we hope that people will be a part of that. It started off way back in the Civil War, and we've been helping our military members since.
All right, that's awesome. Thank you, Tessa, for joining us today. Thank you for your service as well. Getting to hear a little bit about your background was a pleasure as a part of this interview. And the Armed Services YMCA, a wonderful organization doing so much to, when we cover these conflicts, there's so many broad headlines that we cover. Getting a chance to talk to you and be reminded of all of the gaps that need to be filled in order for us to have our freedoms that go even beyond those who are overseas is really wonderful. So thank you for taking a little bit of time to join us. Good luck with the 165th celebrations, and hopefully we get to catch up with you again, and please reach out if there's anything we can do for you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks, Tessa. Thanks so much. All right. So a special treat here for us on Live Impact News. Please excuse me for getting the letters wrong there again, guys. ASYMCA, the Armed Services YMCA, Hampton Roads. That was the youth director, Tessa Davis, and so much that they're doing to help the families of service members and the service members themselves, especially at a time like this, especially here in Hampton Roads. So we appreciate her taking a little bit of time to talk with us today. Now, that White House press briefing is still going on, so why don't we head back out live to Washington, D.C. It looks like they're doing a question and answer portion now. Let's listen in once again.
And I would just add to that point, again, I haven't seen these reports. I'm not verifying them. Not that I don't trust you, Trevor, but I want to go back and check with the experts here at the White House. I would just say, and I would echo what the Vice President said this morning, this is a fragile truce. Ceasefires are fragile by nature. We've seen this with respect to the 12-day war with Iran and Israel last year. It takes time sometimes for these ceasefires to be fully effectuated. And one of the results of Operation Epic Fury was we completely dismantled Iran's command and control center, which makes it difficult for them to pass messages up and down the chain. And so we understand that. I would caution a little bit of patience, but of course we want to see the ceasefire effectuated and abided by all parties as quickly as possible.
Thank you. And the American presidential administrations, going back to Ronald Reagan, have said this formulation about nuclear war, that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. Is that still the view of this administration, given the president's comments about civilization?
I have no change in our view on that policy. Katie.
Thanks, Carolyn. I'm just, given the gravity of what he said yesterday, what was your understanding of what he meant when he said, this civilization is going to be eliminated?
I think it was a very, very strong threat from the President of the United States that led the Iranian regime to cave to their knees and ask for a ceasefire and agree to reopening the Strait of Hormuz. So it was a very strong threat that led to results. And as the Secretary of War stated at the Pentagon this morning, it was not an empty threat by any means. The Pentagon had a target list that they were ready to hit go on at 8 p.m. last night if the Iranian regime had not agreed to open the strait, which they did. And I think that's something something we should all be grateful for.
The United States is a moral leader in the world, given that he
I was asked this exact same question by your colleague Andrew in the back, and I think, again, the insinuation by anyone in this room that Iran somehow has the moral high ground over the United States of America is insulting, considering the atrocities that they have, committed against our people and our military over the past 5 decades. John, go ahead.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. 2 questions for you. One has to do with a statement, a joint statement put out this morning by some of America's European allies, our NATO allies. And in that joint statement, they said regarding the Strait of Hormuz, our governments will contribute to ensuring freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. What's the administration's reaction to that joint statement? Does that smooth things over when the president meets with NATO Secretary General a little bit later this afternoon?
I have a direct quote from the President of the United States on NATO, and I will share it with all of you. They were tested and they failed. And I would add, it's quite sad that NATO turned their backs on the American people over the course of the last 6 weeks, when it's the American people who have been funding their defense. As you know, President Trump will be meeting with Secretary Ruta in a couple of hours here at the White House, and I know he looks forward to having a very frank and candid conversation with him.
And then secondly, in regards to this conflict, 38 days, as you pointed out, President Trump has said that there's been regime change. Has that regime change led to more freedoms for the Iranian people?
I think that's a question that's being asked a little bit too early, John, and we hope that is the case, but it's something that has yet to be seen.
Caroline, come on.
Eamon.
Caroline, on this question of tolling by the Iranians in the Strait of Hormuz, I've heard you talk about a number of red lines that the president has in this negotiation, but I haven't heard you say that Iranian tolling in the Strait of Hormuz is a red line. Would it be acceptable to the United States at the end of all this if the Iranians are able to charge tolls in the Strait of Hormuz?
I think the president was very clear and simplistic in his language last night in his Truth Social post, where he said that this ceasefire is subject to the free, safe, and immediate reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. That's very plain language, and it should be taken at face value.
You mean free of charge?
Carrie, go ahead. Without limitation, including tolls, yes. Carrie.
Quick follow-up on the tolling. Why would the U.S. allow Iran to collect tolls in the Strait of Hormuz? That's not something that we've opposed for a number of years now.
Again, that's not something we've said that we've definitively accepted. The joint venture is something that was proposed by the president, but he was very clear in his statement last night. He wants to see the strait reopened immediately without limitation, and that's something we're going to hold them to. Yes, in the blue.
A second question on
family and friends in Iran. I myself am Iranian, and I've been talking to them through the blackout. One of my family members yesterday said goodbye to me. So what message should we be sending Iranians when they message me saying what should they be doing right now? How should they stay safe? Because they really don't know what to do.
I think the president's main priority, and my main priority as his spokeswoman, is to make sure that clear messages are sent to the American people, of course, which is my job today. With respect to the Iranian people, the president, has taken out the imminent threat that was posed by their military to the United States, to our allies in the region, to our forces in the region, and of course, as the president has long said, he hopes that Iran will be a country of peace, of prosperity, and we're moving into this next round of negotiations to hopefully come to an agreement with this new regime that will create long-term stability in the Middle East.
He has said that they should stay inside of their homes and also take back their country. So there's a contradiction there. So how do you address that?
Again, we're moving into this next round of negotiations with the remnants of the regime and those that we are speaking with now to hopefully reach a place of peace long-term for the region, and that includes the Iranian people as well. In the blue, go ahead.
Thank you, Brian. The White House posted the statement from the Iranian government that passage in the strait will be coordinated with Iran's armed forces. As of today, who controls the Strait of Hormuz?
Again, these statements were put out 12 hours ago. We expect that the strait will be opened immediately. As I've said earlier, we have seen an uptick in traffic in the strait, and it's something that we are monitoring minute by minute, hour by hour as the days go on.
Who controls the strait right now?
Two questions. One on the deportations of Iranian officials, and then on the negotiations. Are there still security concerns about Vice President Vance being part of these peace talks, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner? And then two, given the ongoing deportation of General Soleimani's niece, does the Trump administration plan to deport more relatives or people in the families of Iranian officials that are in the U.S.?
Certainly, anyone who is here fraudulently. I understand one of the individuals who their visa was revoked by Secretary Rubio and they were deported by ICE. They had a fraudulent asylum claim. That's against the laws of the United States. So anyone who is here illegally or fraudulently is subject to our nation's immigration laws and will be removed from our country. And I know this continues to be a top priority for the State Department, working in conjunction with the Department of Homeland Security. With respect to the safety of the Vice President, we fully trust the United States Secret Service to do their job, to keep the Vice President and the President's negotiating team safe. They do a tremendous job, and we fully trust them to do that.
Caroline.
In the back, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. The President has said Cuba is next. What's the message to the American people regarding Cuba, and what can Cubans expect in relation to this statement?
Well, look, I think when President Trump said that, and he later clarified after making that statement, that he meant the Cuban regime is bound to fall. The country is very weak. They're in a very weak position economically, obviously, financially. The Cuban people are fed up with their government, as they should be. And these talks and discussions continue to happen at the highest level of our government. I don't have any updates or announcements for you with respect to Cuba policy today. Good to see you.
Thank you, Caroline. Secretary Hegseth said this morning that U.S. troops would be sticking around. Can you expound upon that, what we should expect from U.S. troops in theater for the next 2 weeks and beyond?
I would defer you to the Pentagon for any specifics on assets that have been in place in the Middle East, but take the Secretary at his word, and also the President has reiterated this as well in his own words, that we're not going to move anything immediately. Again, this is a 2-week ceasefire where we hope at the end, and we expect at the end, we'll have a good agreement between the United States and Iran, but in the meantime, we're going to ensure that our military is always at the ready of the Commander-in-Chief. I'll take a couple more in the back. Sure.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
On NATO, I'll take your question. Go
Thank
ahead.
you, Caroline. On NATO, can you tell me, is the United States still considering withdrawing from NATO? Is that still a possibility?
It's something the President has discussed, and I think it's something the President will be discussing in a couple of hours with Secretary General Ruta, and perhaps you'll hear directly from the President following that meeting later this afternoon. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, the conclusion of that White House press briefing. You heard that last answer there. Withdrawing from NATO, something that President Trump has discussed. He's meeting with the Secretary General of NATO today, as far as we know. And then White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt mentioning that we may hear directly from the President later today. So that's something that we'll keep an eye on. I don't anticipate that coming before the end of our stream, but something we're going to look out for nonetheless. Okay, so we got to hear some question and answer there. Now, there has been reports that Iran would still look to charge ships that pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Caroline Leavitt including that without limitations includes tolls in one of her answers there. So that's not something that, based on that characterization, that President Trump would be willing to accept. Now, we also heard from Benjamin Netanyahu earlier, and we went to go to his press conference live, but it was being conducted in Hebrew, so we could not understand what he was saying. But as we said, there would likely be reporting to come soon on what he said 11 seconds ago, the Associated Press, with some quotes from that press conference. I'm going to read those to you here now. Quote, "We are ready to return to fighting at any time. Our finger is on the trigger," according Netanyahu said in his first address to his country since the start of the ceasefire. He included that Iran is weaker than ever and Israel is stronger than it has ever been, adding that the, quote, "deep friendship with the United States has changed the face of the Middle East." Again, those are quotes from Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, we're going to carry on with this because we talked about how there were severe strikes in Lebanon today, potentially the most intense since the war started, as Iran continues to target Hezbollah, which is in Lebanon for the time being. Netanyahu said he insisted any ceasefire with Iran not include Hezbollah, and cited Israel's massive strikes across Lebanon on Wednesday for being the biggest attacks against the militant group since the Beeper operation in 2024, when Israel engineered exploding pagers that injured hundreds of Hezbollah leaders. So He insisted that any ceasefire with Iran not include Hezbollah. We reported that Iran has the Associated Press rather, and then we relayed the information to you that Iran reclosed the Strait of Hormuz following those strikes. The White House releasing a statement saying that demanding that Iran reopen the Strait of Hormuz immediately after Iran says it closed the waterway. All of that happening very recently here. Also, we did not get to hear this, but Caroline Leavitt and the White House reporting that Vice President J.D. Vance will lead the United States negotiating team in talks aimed at finding a permanent end to the war. So a lot happening, as we stated at the top of the show, as we continue to cover any updates that we get regarding the war in Iran. Now, we are going to take a commercial break here on Live Impact News, and then we're going to be back with more on this program. Please stay with us. Okay, welcome back to live Impact News here on 13 News Now Plus. Somewhat of a scattered start to the show, trying to keep track of all the news coming in, multiple live events. We want to thank the ASYMCA for joining us again today to talk a little bit about their organization. Tessa Davis sat down with us. That's the Armed Forces YMCA of Hampton Roads, providing services for military families, especially during this time, and especially for families who have a parent who is out on deployment. So again, a shout out to the ASYMCA for joining us today, Tessa Davis specifically. Now, we have a live event that is getting ready to start. I want to give an update on what that is going to be, so that when the time comes, we can just jump right into it. I want to lay the foundation for you for what this is going to be. This is the Suffolk County District Attorney holding a news conference following Rex Heuermann's guilty plea. So, who is Rex Heuermann? Rex Heuermann has been accused of killing at least 7 women between 1993 and 2010. Today, in court, he changed his plea to guilty. So he now has pled guilty to those charges. Now, he's been in custody since 2023. He was a New York architect before that. Again, suspected of killing at least 7 women. Now, most of those women were missing young sex workers. The reason, again, 1993 to 2010, 17 years. The reason that they were able to sort of start to piece together that this may be a serial killer situation is that 4 bodies, actually a number of different dead bodies or remains were found or have been found on Gilgo Beach. Gilgo Beach, obviously a place that has been used for that type of disposal in the past. It was noticed that 4 of the bodies found on Gilgo Beach had similar characteristics in terms of how they were disposed. That sort of piece of information, that data point, was then used to start creating this case, to start understanding that these were not all random situations, that this was a serial killer. Then in 2010, a woman went missing in Long Island. That was reported by a friend. In the search for her, that's where they found those Gilgo Beach remains that ultimately led to some of these conclusions, including, as we said, other remains that have not been tied to the Rex Heuermann situation, to the case that we're talking about now. Now, years later, they did also find the body of that missing woman from 2010. So a lot of sadness and tragedy for a lot of families involved in this, but that missing woman not connected to this Rex Heuermann case. Now, they were able to use cell phone tower records, physical descriptions, and vehicle descriptions to start to piece together the case against Rex Heuermann. Ultimately, a stakeout led to the recovery of a piece of pizza. The DNA from that slice of half-eaten pizza matched DNA from victims, which led to an even stronger case against Heuermann. Ultimately, a guilty plea submitted today. The trial was originally set for September, and the podium has now been taken. So let's listen in on this press conference about this case.
It was these victims, these women, who refused to stay silent. First, that silence was broken by the victims' families, who advocated for their loved ones and agitated for justice. Then the noise grew louder through the ensuing investigation and examination of the evidence that the defendant left at or around the crime scenes, as well as on the bodies of the women themselves, that further told the stories of these victims and what had actually happened to them. It was this evidence that ultimately was put together by the task force that proved to be the defendant's undoing and led to the pleas of guilt in today's court proceeding. And it is in this way that these murders were solved. And while we in law enforcement, as well as our Suffolk County citizens, mourn the loss of these victims, we are also grateful to them and to their families, because without them, this defendant would have never been brought to justice and would still be walking amongst us. And he would still be portraying himself as that same harmless father next door, instead of what he is, a convicted murderer. Ultimately, this case is really about these victims and their stories. It is not about this defendant. And I speak for everyone in law enforcement, and when I say we are honored and thankful for having being able to have played a small role in obtaining a small measure of justice for these families. For decades, this case stood out as a painful scar on the face of Suffolk County law enforcement, Suffolk County government, the citizens of Suffolk County, and the victims' families as well. However, with the defendant's pleas of guilt today, it means that for the first time since the deaths of these women, we can turn to all of these same people and say, Rex Uriman will be held responsible for the 1993 murder of Sandra Castilla, the 1996 murder of Karen Vergata, the 2000 murder of Valerie Mack, the 2003 murder of Jessica Taylor, the 2007 murder of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, the 2009 murder of Melissa Bartholomew, the June 2009 murder of Megan Waterman, and the September 2010 murder of Ms. Costello. Despite this tragedy, there's a lot of different emotions, and I guess the word for today, despite the tragedy, despite all those emotions, is thankfulness. We are thankful. We have a lot to be thankful for, despite these emotions. First and foremost, we are thankful for the victims and the victims' families who told their stories, their loved ones' stories, and defended their loved ones' legacies. Without them, we would have never truly gotten to know those victims. My start in this case occurred before I took office. A homicide detective with the Suffolk County PD, Pat Portella, gave my phone number to Melissa and Amanda. Melissa is, of course, Maureen Brainerd Barnes' sister, and Amanda is Melissa Bartholomew's sister. And they spoke with me. We had a really good phone conversation. And during that phone conversation, I heard the pain and frustration in their voices. They wanted answers. They wanted closure. I told them that we were going to do things differently. It was going to be a new manner of doing things. We were going to form a task force, and we were going to bring all of the talents of all these people standing here to bear, and we were going to work together. We were going to not use this case as a political football to be kicked into the news stream on slow days or whenever it suited the political leader's purpose. We were going to be quiet. We were going to pretend as though it was business as usual in Suffolk County. And the reason why we were going to do that was because we knew what we were doing. We were playing to an audience of one. And that one person, of course, was the murderer. We wanted to lure that individual into a false sense of security. We wanted him to think he got away with this. And that was exactly what we did. And the reason why we wanted to do that is because when we solved this case and we had those arrest warrants and executed those search warrants, we wanted more evidence, and that's exactly what we got. So we were thankful for that. We were thankful we were able to bring this case to a close, but it started, our inspiration was these victims and their families. But those families were so much more to us. Through them, we truly got to know these victims. When we started, the victims were nothing but names on a blotter, black and white, writing on investigative reports. But once we spoke to the victims, they provided us with the color of these women, and we got to know them as the wonderful mothers, sisters, friends, and daughters that they were. And that inspired us even more to close this case, to come to a resolution. So again, first and foremost, we are thankful for those families. And I just want to individually, mention all of the families. The Brainerd Barnes family, I already spoke with Melissa, but I want to thank Melissa and her husband Chris and their children, Marie, who is Maureen's mom, Nicolette and Dylan, who are Maureen's two children. We want to thank them for their support, not only of Maureen, but for our investigation as well. And we want to say, on behalf of Suffolk County, we're sorry. The Bartholomew family, Amanda, who's Melissa's sister, Lynn, her mom, and Jeff, Lynn's partner. We want to thank them as well. When this case started, it started with the grand. Well, it didn't start, but the charging started with the grand jury, and Amanda, Lynn, and Melissa came down and helped us with the grand jury. And I remember when Lynn came in, it was about 2-day proceeding, and when Lynn first walked in, she appeared a certain way, and by the end of that second day, she looked completely different. You could see that having forced her to relive this, you could see the sadness in her face and in her eyes, and we're sorry for that. But without their cooperation, we wouldn't be here today. So to Amanda, Lynn, Jeff, and everyone in the Bartholomew family, we want to say thank you, and we want to say we're sorry. To the Waterman family, we have Megan's aunt, Liz, and we have her daughter, Lily. We want to thank them. We didn't get to know them until after the indictment, but again, the way that they stood by Megan and the way they supported us, we want to say to them, thank you, and we're sorry. To Amber Costello and her family, specifically Amber's sister Kim, we want to say thank you, and again, thank you for the support, and again, we're sorry for the loss of Amber. Valerie Mack, we met shortly before the indictment. We met Ed and Joanne Mack. Ed and Joanne Mack were foster parents and then the adopted parents of Valerie, and they gave Valerie the only happy home she ever knew, and really the only support she probably ever knew in her life. Meeting with them, they're incredibly special people. They're heroes. We also got to know Valerie's sister Angela and her son Aaron. Again, equally wonderful people. So to them, we want to say thank you, and we're sorry. Jessica Taylor, we got to know Jessica's mom, Liz, after the indictment. Prior to the indictment, we got to know Jessica's cousin, Jasmine. And right after the initial indictment of the first 3 victims, Jasmine came to us on behalf of Liz and said, please help us. Please find out what happened to Jessica. And at that time, we didn't have enough. And we said, look, we're going to work and we're going to try to get there. And we're going to work as hard as we can. Please trust us. And, Jasmine, on behalf of Liz, said they would do just that. So to Jasmine and Liz, I want to say thank you. And again, we're sorry. To the Vergata family, Karen Vergata, we recently went, I did, I know members of the Suffolk County PD had already spoken to the family, but my team recently went and we saw Eric and Gary, who are Karen's sons. Gary's not here today, but we got to meet Gary, and I know Gary's watching, so we want to say hello to Gary. Eric's here. We want to thank Eric. And again, we want to thank you and tell them how much we admire them for supporting their mom and for supporting us. And again, we want to say we're sorry. On behalf of all of Suffolk County, we're sorry for Karen's passing. The Castilla family, Cassandra Castilla. We had the opportunity shortly before the indictment to meet with Ariel, who's the husband of Ruth, and Ruth is Sandra's sister. Again, wonderful people who really stood by and supported Sandra. So we want to thank them for that. We want to thank them for their support of our investigation. And on behalf of Suffolk County, we want to tell them we're sorry. We're sorry. So that's the family. Again, they inspired us. They're the reason why we do what we do. Today was a very special day for us in law enforcement. because it gave us the opportunity to turn to these victims and their families and say, listen, we told you we were going to work really hard. We told you we were going to do everything we can to bring closure to you. And that's why we work in law enforcement. And, we were able to do that to a small measure today. So we're happy for that. And again, so thankful for them. In addition to our victims' families, we have our law enforcement family. And, this case was, brought home by a task force that brought to bear the talents of a number of really great investigators from a lot of really great agencies. And again, so thankful to be able to have worked with so many talented people. It's not really, some people will say, well, this person solved Gilgo or that person solved Gilgo. That's not it at all. It was so many different pieces from so many different people, starting back in 1993 and culminating all the way through 2021. So again, and really beyond, actually. So again, so thankful for the great work. First and foremost, I have to thank my chief investigator, Rich Zacharies. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've had the benefit of working with truly the best investigators in the country and in the world. Rich is the finest investigator I've ever worked for and worked with. I do sometimes feel as though I work for him. But he was the architect of our grand jury. He put together our grand jury. And I think there's, whether it's an attorney or an investigator, I think there are very few people who could have done that logistically. And so to Rich, I want to say thank you. To our detective investigators, our analysts, again, all great. And I'm gonna mention a lot of people, and it's gonna, because it's not exciting to mention a lot of people, but they deserve mention. So I'm going to mention them. We're going to go through everyone, but not everyone, but a lot of people. We're going to talk about our phone experts, Justin Doolittle and John Primiano. Unbelievable work in this case and so many others. Our analysts, Kaylee Homer, Erin Hansen. Unbelievable work combing through this evidence, this miles of evidence. And that's just to name a few. They're indicative of so many more. Our law enforcement partners, we had our DA people, our PD, our FBI, our New York State Police, our Suffolk County Sheriff's Office, our core people, Rory Forrestall, a DI. I hired Rory. He was supposed to come in and help us with our child abuse section, but he got waylaid in here, and he worked like heck for us and did a great job. We're so thankful for Rory. For Suffolk County PD, our homicide guys who are still with the task force today, Chris Calvaca and Scott Aquilina, great individuals, great investigators. Thank you so much, Chris, Scott. We had Jimmy Watson, who worked with us, no longer with us. He's in Nassau. FBI agent Craig Mateo. Special Agent Craig Mateo. Everybody's young, I guess, compared to me, but I see him as a young guy, really talented agent, really great guy, really, really helpful. Investigator Tiffany Attai with the State Police. Again, along with Rory, Erin, and Kaylee, really, plunged into the evidence in this case and really, really helped us out. She was also the one who did the infamous avalanche search. So we want to thank Tiffany for all of the work and all the work that they all did. We have a number of retired task force and former law enforcement officers with us today. We invited them, and I saw John Santoro, I saw Donna Giordano, Pat Albergo, just to name a few. And we wanted to invite those retired members because, again, there was a lot of talk about this case, a lot of talk about, no one cared about the women, who were murdered in this case. That nothing could be further from the truth. I'll talk about Pat Alberga. He worked Jessica Taylor's case. He retired when we had brought enough evidence to bring that case together. We called Pat. And he came to help us testify. Actually, he and Donna Giordano testified for us. But when Pat Albergo, who's retired, came in, he sort of walked through the door like a kid, like a little kid walking down the stairs during Christmas. And he's like, "Why am I here?" And I'm like, "Because we're going to charge this case." He was thrilled, and that attitude is indicative of every single one of all these agencies. So grateful to work with all of these people, both past and present. Our ADAs, Nick Santamartino, Andrew Lee, Michelle Haddad, Larry Opizzo, God help them, right? They get to know what I'm really like. And so they were with us right from the very beginning, through the grand jury and through today. Great job by them. I want to thank them. My chief assistant, Alan Bodie, he really, along with Rich and I, we really thought a lot about how we were going to go forward with this case and planned a lot of things, from the grand jury. And he was really helpful with that. And also, he ran the office while I was running around pretending to be a lawyer. Our discovery expediters, our analysts, our paralegals, everyone. And that's just us. So now, we come to the Suffolk County PD, and, I'll talk a lot about Suffolk County PD was, with us every step of the way. Our police commissioner Catalina, our chief of department Bill Dougherty, our chief of detectives Sean Barron, a whole host of other people are with us today. We have our Suffolk County sheriff Errol Toulon with us, as well as Undersheriff Kevin Heavey, as well as Undersheriff John Becker. We really want to thank those two agencies. We want to thank Errol Toulon, and we want to thank Police Commissioner Catalina. They're two phenomenal partners. I can say this about Suffolk County and Suffolk County citizens when it comes to Police Commissioner Catalina and Sheriff Toulon. You are all in wonderful company. In addition, with regard to our Sheriff's Department, they provided logistics and traffic and sex trafficking related intel throughout our interviews, helped us to identify a lot of potential interviews of inmates and other people who had been sex trafficked. So we want to thank Suffolk County Sheriff for that. With regard, we also have the FBI here. We have Special Agent in Charge Michael Raffa, who's the FBI New York Criminal Division. So Special Agent in Charge Raffa is in charge of the criminal division of the FBI in New York State. We want to thank Michael for coming in. We want to thank Supervisory Senior Resident Agent Don Osbacher, who's been with us from the very beginning. We want to thank them for lending us their expertise, and more importantly, their people. The cell phone analysis that we all heard about, that was done by the CAST, or cellular. The FBI CAST stands for Cellular Analysis Survey Team, and specifically Special Agents Eric Perry and Mike Sabrick. Really unbelievable work by them. Eric, he provided the drive time records, so those boxes, those areas of interest in Manhattan and in Massapequa Park. That was developed because in 2011, Eric Perry drove with equipment through every single neighborhood and extensively mapped the cell phone coverage in those areas and allowed us with specificity to be able to develop these areas of interest. That had to be done in 2011. The landscape changed, the cell sites changed, after Superstorm Sandy, the geography changed. So, we went back to 2011, and that work that Eric did, and just phenomenal. So we want to thank the FBI. We want to thank Eric Perry and Mike Sabrick. They both created maps for us to use in the grand jury. They testified in the grand jury, as well as John Primiano from my office with the help of Justin Doolittle, and just great work. With regard to forensics in this case, I think I'd said earlier that IgG, investigative genetic genealogy, did not play a role in this case. I was wrong. I had forgotten that IgG was used to identify victim Valerie Mack prior to my involvement in the case. So I want to thank the FBI and Lori Giordano for that. They also, with us, helped to identify Karen Vergata. So again, thank you. FBI, they provided surveillance of the defendant, both in the city and on Long Island, and their surveillance team. I was nervous. I had never met these guys. I had worked for them, worked with them as a federal prosecutor, but that was a high risk, high reward thing. If they get made, everything comes down. If they get detected, but they weren't detected. Not only did they follow the defendant, but they recovered the abandonment samples. So we want to thank them. Suffolk County PD, they recovered DNA from the defendant's house. We want to thank the homicide squad for that. And again, working together, we were able to really develop that DNA evidence. So we want to thank them. We provided, the FBI provided a searchable account. Digitalized this entire file for us. We want to thank the FBI for that. New York State Police. Today we have Major Chris Casal, who's the troop commander of Troop L. We have Captain Chris Jean, who works in Troop L as well. Again, they provided Tiffany Atai to our task force, who was integral to our success. They provided assistance to search warrants of all the search warrants with regard to this case in all the various locations. They were on the scene with our Suffolk County Police Department gathering evidence. They transported evidence from the house to Suffolk County property, along again with Suffolk County PD. The avalanche truck. They transported it from South Carolina to our lab. There was a Ram Charger from Pennsylvania that was associated with the Sandra Castilla case. State troopers took that from Pennsylvania, brought it to our lab. We were able to develop evidence linking that truck to the murder of Karen Vergata. We want to thank them. They provided us with K-9 units along with the NYPD, Suffolk County PD. I want to thank all of those agencies. I want to thank Nassau for helping us with the search warrant. I want to thank Nassau County DA's office for helping us with the prosecution of the weapons case. Our Suffolk County Crime Lab, we want to thank them. Tremendous work. I particularly, is Clyde here? Where's Clyde? Clyde, raise your hand. Where's Clyde? All right, Clyde's all the way in the back as usual, hiding. So Clyde was the hair analyst in this case. He collected hairs from all the victims in this case, save for Jessica Taylor. And he pushed the PD and he pushed our office to send certain hairs out for mitochondrial and then later nuclear DNA testing. And when we started this case, he was working with Nick Santomartino in my office, and he was recalling with great specificity certain hairs of interest that he thought were really going to bear fruit. And I was talking to Nick, and I was saying, does this guy really, was he this meticulous? Is he this sure? And so Nick said, sit down with him, sit down with Clyde. And we sat down with Clyde, and, to go to a crime scene, in the 2000s and not have the capability to get nuclear DNA, but yet to be so precise and exact in gathering evidence, cataloging the evidence, safeguarding the evidence, and then being able to advocate for its use. Without Clyde, we probably wouldn't have gotten that evidence. So, Clyde's retired now, but we really want to thank Clyde. Bob Jenna, he collected hairs on the Castilla case. He recovered 2 hair. He was a former chief of Suffolk County Crime Lab. He's retired. He collected 2 hairs on Sandra Castilla, did a great job, similar to Clyde. Don Doler, the former chief, he was the chief of the lab when we started this. Great job. We want to thank him. Connie Dinkle is the current chief of the lab, and she did a great job and continues to do a great job. We want to thank them. Bob Bauman, Helen Wong, Liz Sepulveda, Kerry Anito, Craig Hamer, all of these forensic scientists did a fantastic job, and we want to thank them. Again, they were in the house with our law enforcement partners gathering this evidence meticulously, precisely, and without. This. I was thinking about this. This isn't a cast of hundreds. When you look at when you bring all this together, it's a cast of thousands. So we want to thank all of those individuals. Office of Chief Medical Examiner, City of New York, Brad Adams, Mark Desire, and Neha Desai. Brad Adams was the anthropologist. He identified the Gilgo Four, and he was the one who urged investigators to go back after the discovery of Melissa Barthelemy, which resulted in the discovery of the 3 other victims known as the Gilgo Four. Mark Desire is the assistant director of biology of the lab. He was our liaison. He made all of his people available to us. Ms. Desai, she testified for us in the grand jury. Her DNA analysis led to the identification of the Gilgo Beach Four. Again, she testified in the grand jury. A fantastic job. Our outside experts, Mitotyping Technologies, Gloria Dimmick and Jenna Manges. Gloria testified for us in the grand jury. Fantastic scientist, fantastic person. Astria Forensic, Dr. Ed Green, Dr. Christina Valencia, Kelly Harkins Kincaid. Those scientists with Astria are at the very top of their field, and they did something revolutionary in this case, and they've set the bar high going forward, and we're going to be able to utilize this technology going forward to solve a great many cases. So we want to thank Astrea Forensics, and I want to tell you, if you think you're smart, you should spend a week with Dr. Green, and then suddenly you realize maybe you're not as smart as you think you are. At least that's the sense I got after spending time with all those great scientists. NYPD, again, they helped us with the cadaver search in April of 2025. We had individuals from their TARU unit testify in the grand jury with regard to phone calls made by the defendant. They helped us to attain records, missing person records involving in this case, spanning back years and years. Again, at a drop of a hat, even though it wasn't their case, they came in and helped us. Scarborough Police Department, with regard to Megan Waterman. The Megan Waterman case came in as
obviously a wide-ranging case with a lot of people involved, a lot of people to thank, a lot of people instrumental in hopefully providing the families of those victims with some amount of peace. And we're going to stay with this here for a moment. We're going to explore some different aspects of this case. First, we're going to report, courtesy of PBS.org, exactly what happened in that courthouse, which is that Rex Heuermann, 62 years old, entered that guilty plea. He admitted to murdering 7 women, or he pled guilty to murdering 7 women, the 7 women that we've been referring to as we've reported on this case. He also admitted that he killed an 8th in that string of long unsolved crimes known as the Gilgo Beach killings. So Heuermann pleading guilty. Now, after that guilty plea earlier today, his lawyer, we don't know that this is his lawyer, but what appeared to be a lawyer and Rex Heuermann's ex-wife appeared before microphones, and his ex-wife gave a statement to the press. So we're actually going to listen in on that here while that press conference is ongoing, just so we can add another kind of piece of information to this story, another puzzle piece to this wide-ranging case. Let's listen in on what is admittedly a very brief statement, but a statement nonetheless from Rex Heuermann's ex-wife.
And nothing said here today can lessen that pain. Let me be absolutely clear. We just heard in the courtroom, Rex Heuermann and Rex Heuermann alone is responsible for these horrific crimes. Any suggestion that Asa Ellerup or Victoria Heuermann were involved is irresponsible. They have no knowledge, no involvement, or any connection to these heinous acts. The evidence that's been put out in the courtroom simply does not support any other fact pattern. Mrs. Ellerup and Victoria accept today's outcome without question. She and her family have cooperated fully since day one with law enforcement and will continue to respect this legal process as it comes to a conclusion. This situation is deeply personal and profoundly painful for Ms. Ellerup and her family. She never wanted to believe the man she was married to for 27 years, the father of Victoria, would be capable of committing such heinous acts. Like so many others, she is still trying to process what was just revealed inside that courtroom, and she has to remain strong for her family. On behalf of her family, she's asking for privacy, compassion, and understanding as she now navigates these circumstances which nobody could have anticipated a little more than 3 years ago. Today is not about Asa. It's not about Victoria. It is about the victims and their families who, as we just stated, have suffered unimaginable losses. And this family will continue in cooperating with the District Attorney's Office and law enforcement in the pursuit of justice wherever it may take us. Any questions?
Can we hear from Asa?
Yeah, no, we shortly will hear from Asa, yes. Just want to know, she's not going to answer any questions. She's going to read a statement, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Okay. She's not going to answer questions. She's going to read a statement that she prepared last night. She's not going to ask any questions.
Can you come to the center back where you are?
Okay, right up. Asa, just step up. Slow. Okay.
No questions?
No
Okay.
questions.
My thoughts and prayers are with the victims and their families. Their loss is immeasurable. And the focus should be on them at this time and moment. I ask that you give some privacy to my family as they navigate through this very difficult time.
How did you not see what he was? How did you not see what he had done? You were living with him.
Sir, the District Attorney's Office has thoroughly investigated these crimes, okay? It has been proven.
You were living in the same house with him.
She was away.
What were the signs?
She was away each and every occasion. We've answered this 1,000 times, okay? You guys have the bail applications. You have the investigation.
Okay, so as you can see there, a brief statement expressing those condolences towards the victims' families, and a reiteration from the attorney there that she knew nothing about this, that Rex Heuermann's ex-wife, his daughter knew nothing about what Heuermann had been doing. Again, Heuermann admitting to pleading guilty to murdering 7 women, admitting that he killed an 8th. Those Gilgo Beach killings have now sort of, at least officially, this chapter of that story has come to a close. Looks like a new speaker has taken the podium at the official press conference. Do we want to go back out live to that, Naya? Let's do it. Let's go back out live to the official press conference here.
Really an amazing job. So thank you to everybody who was involved in this. And to the families. No one can ever replace the lives that were taken from all of you, and way too often they were way too young. But we hope that this brings some measure of solace to you. So, thank you, and thank you for all your cooperation.
Next, we'll hear from Sheriff Toulon.
I want to thank the District Attorney and this entire task force for the hard work that they've done over the last 2.5 years. Today's plea delivers a measure of justice to families who have waited decades for answers after unimaginable loss. While nothing can bring the loved ones back, I am proud we were able to hold Rex Heuermann accountable. Again, thanking the DA and the Police Commission and all the men and women who worked tirelessly. I also want to thank my staff, to uproot an entire jail security system to accommodate an individual of this magnitude over the last 2.5 years. Our staff has done a phenomenal job in our Riverhead facility where he's been housed, and also the staff that has been assigned to our anti-trafficking initiative. And since his arrest in 2023, my priority has been ensuring that he was safely housed in our correctional facilities because justice needed to be served in the courts and not in our jails. This responsibility is one for me and my officers who have taken very seriously. And I've spent my entire career in corrections overseeing some of the most notorious individuals, and what has been the most alarming is how ordinary Heuermann has been. It's a chilling reminder that those capable of horrific acts can often go unnoticed, and another reminder of how much great investigative work has been done to finally apprehend and have a plea today. Most importantly, today is about the victims and their families. You have endured profound loss and years without answers. We hope this guilty plea brings all of you some peace and closure. Our thoughts remain with you and your loved ones today and always. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Special Agent in Charge of the FBI, Rafa.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Michael Rada, the Special Agent in Charge of FBI New York Field Office Criminal Division. I'm proud to stand alongside Suffolk County Police Department Commissioner Kevin Catalina, Suffolk County District Attorney Tierney, Suffolk County Sheriff Toulon, to announce the plea of Rex Heuermann, the Gilgo Beach serial killer. Today's announcement highlights the importance of partnerships and perseverance. For decades, the families of these women have been left searching for answers and waiting for justice. This ends today because these agencies before you never gave up. The detectives, the troopers, the agents tirelessly chased every lead and left no stone unturned. In 2011, FBI New York began collaborating with the Suffolk County Police Department to find out who was responsible for these cold-blooded murders. Our office leveraged many resources, some of which have been described already, over the years to include our CAST, our cellular analysis survey teams, behavior analysis teams, evidence response teams, the surveillance groups, forensic and document lab teams at Quantico, and investigative genealogy tools to identify some of Heuermann's victims and help Suffolk County Police piece this puzzle together.
All right, back here in Live Impact News, that press conference ongoing as various agencies step to the podium to describe their role and to thank those who were involved. What we're going to do here on Live Impact, we're going to do one last commercial break. When we come back, a check-in with the Artemis II as that historic mission continues. First, a commercial. We're back here on Live Impact. We got about 14 minutes left in the stream, and we're going to focus most of that 14 minutes, unless a live event comes across our path, we're going to focus that time on the Artemis II. That mission continues. History continues to be made, and we have a press conference here from last night with a question and answer portion from journalists and others who were there to help continue to push this story forward and learn new details about this historic mission. We're going to listen in on that in just a second here. Naya is making sure that the video is totally prepared and ready to go. We're going to pick it up as the question and answer portion begins. Again, these astronauts further into space than anyone has ever gone, and the first to see the dark side of the moon with the human eye. Let's go out to that press.
Houston pretty quickly and gets them in the pipeline to release all of them out to the public. Go ahead.
Thank you for your time today. Ed Lavandera with CNN. 2 questions. Watching the crew today get into the spacesuits and reconfigure the seats, it seemed very difficult, or it takes a long time. Is there ever a situation where is the speed at which they did that today pretty good? Is it something that needs to be done faster in the future? And then the second question is, when the crew in the capsule is going around the moon, and at least to someone like me sees it, it's almost like they're hooking back quickly. Are they going to feel like they're turning back? Is that a sensation that they're going to have when they're inside the capsule?
I'll take the first one, and maybe Kelsey could take the second one. In terms of the suit donning that we did today, the speed is not particularly something we are concerned about, because the Orion spacecraft has the capability to feed a cabin leak, to buy the crew the time to put the suits on. It's not something where if we had a strike that punctured a hole in the cabin, that the crew wouldn't have time to put the suits on. We have oxygen loaded on the spacecraft, and that oxygen will be continually providing cabin pressure, maintaining 8 psi in the cabin to allow the crew that opportunity to get their suits on safely.
And I think we'll have to ask the crew tomorrow what they can and cannot feel, but I can tell you what they're going to see. And we had, a lot of conversations when we started scoping the flyby about how fast are they going to be moving? Are they going to have time to see some of these smaller scale features during the flyby? And so we have an amazing visualization lead for the mission, Ernie Wright from the Goddard Space Flight Center, and he has done just amazing work to really try to reproduce as close as possible the illumination conditions they can expect at the speed that it will be moving. And it actually, from the perspective of the spacecraft, they will be moving slow enough to really be able to make robust observations. So it was quite a relief to our team and definitely to the crew when we started playing these visualizations. I don't know what they're going to feel, but I know what they're going to see, and they're going to have time to make observations. Go ahead.
Hi, Michael Atkinson, Houston Public Media. I want to ask about public engagement. I think that in the social media age, it's a lot harder to keep people's attention compared to the Apollo era when there was just 3 TV channels. I'm curious what you guys have made of public engagement thus far and what a successful day tomorrow looks like. I understand it's going to be streaming on a lot of different outlets. What would a successful lunar flyby from the public engagement perspective look like?
That's a really great question. I can assure you that we are tracking the metrics very closely every day, absolutely, and the public engagement has been spectacular. It has, I think, dropped a little bit since the launch day, but I do anticipate a big bump again tomorrow as we have this really key moment in time where we're flying around, we're breaking the Apollo record, we're going to have an eclipse, we're going to have all of these amazing observations. I really think we're going to get another big spike. I'm really looking forward to that. And then I anticipate another big spike when we splash down on Friday evening.
Yeah, I might add to that too that, first of all, I might turn the question back around on all of you and say that, our public engagement team has done such an amazing job to package messaging about this mission, and specifically the lunar science engagement team has been working for months and months and months to make sure that the public has access to the information about the moon. But please help us, right? This is a unifying moment for all of us, and we really, we've put our best foot forward into preparing this mission for success, and we know what it's going to mean to connect to the moon in that way tomorrow. And please, all of you in the room and online, please help us get the word out. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, T.J. Mosquero with the Epoch Times. Thanks for taking the time, and happy Easter. Question for Rick and Lori. Without a landing or parking in orbit, what are you considering the official arrival point? Like when you arrive at the moon? Is it when Orion enters lunar gravity? Is it when the flyby begins? Is it the closest point?
Well, I'm looking at Rick here, but from my perspective, as Rick said earlier, when we enter that point where we cross over from being driven by Earth's gravity to being pulled by the moon more strongly than Earth, to me, that's where we'd start. But
I think I was going to give the same answer, so I agree.
I'll give the lunar science example, which is closest approach.
Everybody's point of view.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, Alejandro Turnbull for Space Scout. Question for Kelsey. Looking forward to future Artemis missions, how are you expecting the science plans to change from what we're going to see tomorrow? What opportunities are going to be afforded to you by having crew both on the surface and in orbit?
Oh my gosh, great question. We're learning a lot about the flyby and orbital observations piece of Artemis missions from Artemis 2, and we're looking forward to learning more with Artemis 3, right? But looking to the future, when we do have crew on the surface and crew in orbit, of course, those sort of concurrent observations hold a lot of value. Different vantage points tell you something different scientifically, and having that sort of orbital view from Orion, from an orbiting spacecraft, around the time when the crew is on the surface does enable these really important contextual observations, especially that orbiting crew that's going to be farther away is really going to be able to say, these geologic processes influence the landing area, and that's going to help us tell the story of the science of the mission and ultimately could impact what type of samples we're asking future crews to collect. And for the payloads that we deploy on the surface, let's provide that landing site contextually in where they landed on the moon. A lot of science value to be gained both from surface science and from concurrent observations.
Okay, let's take one from Ken, and then we'll go to the phone for a few.
Hi, Ken Chang from New York Times. A couple questions for Kelsey following up. So you said they're going very quickly over the far side. Do you know what the maximum speed is relative to the surface? And just sort of following up on what you all will be doing down here. I remember a media tour last fall, you had this wonderful table that you'll be seeing, having interactive. Will you be giving feedback to the astronauts or follow-up questions, or you don't want to interrupt them what they're doing?
Great question. Do you know I don't know the
I
radio.
do not. We'd have to check on that and get back to you.
Yeah. Yes, the science evaluation room is a really exciting room. We worked with Mission Control to develop this unique flight control room for the mission, specifically with science in mind. It's not a traditional flight control room that has, typically like rows of consoles where disciplines are plugged in with their teams. Scientists like to talk, and they like to talk over airwaves, so we've allowed for that in the science evaluation room. And what you're referencing here is a beautiful smart table where you can actually, and it's a touch table, right, where you can, put up data of the moon and zoom around different areas of the moon to kind of follow along with what the crew are doing. But we will be engaging with them during the flyby, of course, with the exception of the time when there is that planned loss of signal. And we do plan to be following up on their observation. So again, these 4 people are absolutely ready to give scientifically valuable descriptions, but more brains can help, hone in on nuances of the observations that they're making. And so we have allowed time for crew discussion where all 4 of them at the same time will be discussing some scientific question. For example, I believe the first one tomorrow is the near side, far side transition and looking at color and albedo across that transition. They'll be discussing with each other, and I've heard them in simulations, one crew member will say something and the next crew member will say, oh, actually, I saw it this way, and they're actually able to really have elevated science discussions. But we do plan to have that interaction from the ground as well, based on what the science team in the science evaluation room is seeing and hearing from the crew. We'll be able to have a bit of a science dialogue. We have enough hours in the flyby where we'll be able to have a back and forth, which I'm really anticipating is going to enhance science return because we have this amazing back room of lunar scientists and geologists ready to help provide support.
And it's super high tech. I can back her up. I've been in there. It's so cool. You'll get to see it, I think, during the feed tomorrow.
Okay, we'll take several from the phone now, and we'll start with Jeff Faust with Space News.
Good afternoon. Question for Rick. We heard yesterday at the briefing about a mystery smell whose source wasn't identified. It wasn't a cause for concern, but I don't know if you have any updates on whether that smell is persisting and what might be causing it. Thanks.
Sure. Good question. We have been trying to correlate the smell and the crew reports of the smell to a particular event or a changing configuration of the spacecraft. We have a number of heaters that are located near that area of interest, and there's nothing about a heater cycling that we can correlate to the smell. There's nothing about the usage of the toilet that would cause an increase in the concentration to cause a more acute smell or a more mild smell. So right now, there isn't any root cause identified as to what that source is, but we're continuing to proceed with the mission and the use of the toilet nominally.
Okay, our next question is from Stephen Clark with Ars Technica.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. I think my question is probably for Rick as well. You mentioned the checkout tonight of the optical comm system on Orion. Has that been used thus far in the mission? How is it performing? And also, if it checks out and you're able to get to that 100 megabits per second downlink, will that kind of expedite the downlink of some of the photos we're expecting from tomorrow? Thanks.
Sure. Yeah, the optical comm system has been performing really well throughout the mission. We've used it throughout all of the lunar transit. We have 3 sites where we downlink data. We have one in California, one in White Sands, New Mexico, and then a third site, which is kind of a test and a target of opportunity with the Australian National University in Australia. And we've been able to stream video live to that site as well. And yes, if we can get the bandwidth increased to 100 megabits per second, that will absolutely help getting imagery and data from the spacecraft down in a more timely manner.
Okay, we'll go to one more on the phone.
Live Impact News. I don't mean to talk over the press conference there. My apologies, but unfortunately, we have run out of time here on our afternoon stream. It is 2:58 and some change. We've only got a minute and a half left, and it's been a journey, this particular stream. We've had a lot to get to, a lot to summarize. We tried to do the best that we could with it. We'll try to do even better tomorrow. Lastly, we want to make sure we thank Tessa Davis from the Armed Services YMCA for taking some time to talk to us today. The ASYMCA Hampton Roads, the youth director, Tessa Davis, joined us on stream to talk about everything they're doing for military families, and it was a really great opportunity for us to get to talk to her, especially here in Hampton Roads. So we appreciate her very much. We appreciate the People's Producer, Nia Campbell, very much, and we hope to, we appreciate you all very much for coming in and watching and hanging with us and spending some time on the Live Impact News stream. We hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Same time, same place.